No matter who they voted for last fall, Americans who love the same team can bond over football. No longer possible, sadly. Now even the country's final nonpartisan refuge has been invaded by politics. On Saturday, the president tweeted that NFL players who protest the national anthem ought to be fired. And as if on cue, the protests intensified. In London, players for the Baltimore Ravens and the Jacksonville Jaguars kneeled in contempt of the Star-Spangled Banner while standing respectfully for God Save the Queen. In Chicago, the entire Pittsburgh Steelers team stayed off the field for the anthem, save for a single player, an Army veteran who defied his own coach by walking out. His jersey, by the way, is the single most popular football-related piece of paraphernalia on the internet right now. In Washington, D.C. last night, virtually every player on the Raiders sat in protest as a military honor guard carried an American flag onto the field. Now, the sight of pampered millionaires giving the rhetorical finger to the country that made them rich is obviously disgusting, so it's no surprise that in stadiums across America, fans booed when they saw this. The left responded today pretty lamely, saying players have a First Amendment right to criticize their country. Of course, nobody really contests that, though free speech lectures are a little hard to take from the very people who routinely shut down the political speech of their opponents. In any case, it's not the point. Just because something is legal doesn't mean you ought to do it. The Constitution also protects your right to, I don't know, scream obscenities at nuns, but it doesn't prevent the rest of us from judging you for doing it. So what are these protests really about? Well, some players claim their core complaint is police brutality, in which case, fine, protest that. Learn the facts, make your case, propose solutions, run for office, try to make the country better. But no, that's too hard. It's easier to follow the demagogues and attack America itself. You'll win plaudits for bravery on Instagram. So why is this a big deal? Why is it, in the end, dangerous for this country? Well, for the same reason we sing the national anthem in the first place so often and stand for the flag, used to say the Pledge of Allegiance, all those other slightly silly civic rituals that liberals have long despised and sneered at. Why are they important? Because in the end, love of country is all we have. We aren't like other nations with a homogenous population and a shared history and religion. Increasingly, we don't even have a common language. So shared belief in America, the country, is the only glue that binds us together. Why are Vermont and Mississippi in the same country? Because people in both places love America. What happens when they no longer do? Many have accused the president of using the flag controversy as a diversion for more pressing topics like the threat of North Korea or the failure of his health care initiative. And as a political matter, that may be true. But it does not change the inherent significance of what you just watched last night at the game. Because when our elites attack our national symbols as if they're worthless and loathsome, something important, something monumental has changed here. If the people who've benefited most from America despise it, and increasingly they do, where does that leave the rest of us? Burgess Owens is a former NFL player. The Reverend Michael Faulkner is a candidate for New York Comptroller. Both of them once played for the New York Jets, so they're well situated to comment on this. Both join us tonight. Thank you both. Reverend, I want to go to you first. And ask if you understand why this is all a little hard to take. Nobody can test the First Amendment right of these players to do what they've done. But to watch the richest, most celebrated, most pampered people in America attack, not police brutality, but the country itself, can you see why people find that so very disgusting?
Yeah, you know, they don't know how to express their anger. And when, you know, and I push back a little bit, Tucker, on the richest, most pampered, because they've had to go through a journey to get where they are. So they've gone through some things to get where they are. They're not pampered. They weren't born of means. Many of them were born into low-income families, etc. So they've gotten where they've gotten because of their talent, their God-given ability. However,
but hold on, let me stop you there. But isn't that the whole point? And you're right, of course. What you just said is totally true. But isn't that the whole point? In America, people from a low station can wind up being some of the richest and most pampered people in the country, as they are.
Absolutely. And listen, as an American, I have a responsibility to challenge power, to challenge authority. However, we're talking now about the setting of it. The setting for an NFL football game and the stars of the game kneeling down before the game is not the proper setting for them to express their political angst and their opposition to what is going on outside of in the inner cities. And
right.
it just takes away the political legs, and it's offensive. And to be honest with you, I think we ought to talk about having that conversation, talking about giving them an opportunity to do something different, because not standing for the national anthem certainly wouldn't be something I would do.
Right. But I mean, these guys have plenty of, look, I mean, they can say every word is recorded by dutiful scribes in the sports press, so it's not like they have no outlet. So Burgess Owens, I'm wondering why the United States government should be subsidizing this. If these guys hate the government, a lot of the stadiums they play in, I would say the majority, are funded by taxpayers. The Pentagon spends hundreds of millions a year advertising at NFL games in the stadium and on broadcast. Why should they be doing that? If these guys hate America, why are American taxpayers picking up a lot of the tab?
Well, I don't think they should be, and I think that the free market is going to take care of that in itself. My concern with this whole process is what the flag stands for. When I stood on the sideline, I remember getting teary-eyed at points because I was so excited about being there, so proud to be part of that process. But I also grew up during a time when 70% of black men were mentors to us. They were in the home, doing the things they need to do, teaching us that this country is the greatest place to be and to grow in. We now have come to a point, because of liberalism, because of the process of what democratic policies do, 70% of black men do not stay around. They don't have these parents and these fathers to tell them what they should be proud of and how they should stand up and for this process. So this is not a void. We're dealing with an ideology that, first of all, bans God, has destroyed the black family in the 70s, which we led the country in terms of our strength of our family unit. They have destroyed our history. No one even knows about how strong the black American history was. And now they want to take away the pride of the country. And I think it's a bridge too far. I think this is the one thing that as Americans, we might disagree. Mike and I might disagree in terms of what they can do in the field, but at the end of the day, we love our country, and we're going to make sure we stand against those who take away the hope of our kids. And that's what these liberals are doing.
I think that's right. And I mean, Michael Faulkner, isn't that the whole point, that these are people who are revered by kids and by lots of Americans? And shouldn't they be, look, America's flawed, nobody argues that it's not, but that the whole enterprise is illegitimate and disgusting, which is what they're saying, and the flag is an object of contempt. Shouldn't they be telling us the opposite? Because it's obviously true.
And taking a knee, they don't get a chance to talk about their issue. First of all, they need to get up and do something about, they need to not just protest, but they need to get up and they need to be part of the national conversation to make America better, to make their communities better, to take their responsibilities, just like Burgess was talking about. But secondly, I thought about it after I looked at what Pittsburgh did. Maybe we should not allow them on the field unless they can stand in honor of the flag and the national anthem. Maybe they should be restricted from the field unless they plan to honor the flag and honor the national anthem as all the fans do in the stands.
Well, that's a great suggestion. By the way, Burgess, isn't that consistent with the way the NFL operates? I mean, if you want to wear orange socks on a team with white socks, you can't. The owner says, the team says you can't. That's exactly right. Why don't they hear?
Well, let's take it a step further. The NFL corporate office right here in New York City. How about if the employees during lunchtime decided they wanted to demonstrate? They'll come back and find out their desks will be vacated. Right. And at the end of the day, this is what's happening. The liberals at the top elitists, they are using my race. They're bringing misery to my race and then using this misery to make sure they keep their power. We need to make sure, number one, there's two things. We need to make sure that we're standing against corporate elitists, liberal elitists like the NFL. I will be boycotting every single team that does this. But we also have to, as black conservatives, get into the black community and let them see what the Democratic Party has for years done to them. It's not a white American problem. It's a democratic, black and white elitist problem.
And the third thing you need to do is run for something so I can vote for you. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Gentlemen, thank you both very much.
Thank you, Tucker. Appreciate it, buddy.